Okay, so I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine you're walking into one of those really prestigious, slightly intimidating university libraries.
Hmm. High ceilings, that quiet hum.
Totally. You can smell the old paper and floor wax. Students are just frantically typing away. You're walking past the history books, past classic literature. You are deep in the heart of the academic establishment.
It paints a very specific picture, doesn't it?
Oh,
Order, reason.
exactly. It feels grounded, safe. But then you take a sharp left into the Woodson Research Center. This is the special collections area at Rice University's Fondren Library.
Right. Where you'd expect to find, what, old manuscripts? Civil War letters?
That's what I'd think. But instead you find yourself standing in front of a climate-controlled vault that holds millions, and I mean literally millions of documents on things that, well, that science says shouldn't exist.
We're talking UFOs,
Yeah.
telepathy, near-death experiences, basically what researchers call anomalous phenomena.
Today, we are doing a deep dive into the archives of the impossible. And I want to be really clear here because I know what you're thinking. This isn't a bunch of tabloid clippings or, internet conspiracy printouts. This is, and I think you'll agree, probably the most ambitious academic attempt ever to bridge the paranormal and the scientific method.
That's the perfect way to put it. And the fact that it's at Rice University is so important. The mission isn't what people assume.
They think it's about disclosure, right? Proving aliens are real.
Exactly. But the goal is, well, it's much more subtle and frankly more intellectual than that. It was founded back in 2014 by a professor of religion, Jeffrey Kripal. And the whole mission is to steward these collections.
Steward them. So like a caretaker.
Precisely. They treat reports of the impossible with the same serious, rigorous care and preservation that they'd give to, I don't know, the pages of a founding father.
And the scale is just, it's hard to get your head around. Looking at this from our perspective now in early 2026, the amount of material they've collected is staggering.
It is massive. As of late last year, we're talking 18 distinct collections, over 1 million documents.
Whoa.
And this matters. The Washington Library Association actually flagged this as like a historic milestone. They said it's the first publicly accessible archive where this kind of paranormal research is the primary focus.
And that publicly accessible part is a huge deal. Usually the stuff is classified, right? It's in a Pentagon basement somewhere.
Or in a private collector's garage where no one can verify anything, which is why this deep dive is so important. We're not speculating. We're going to metaphorically open the boxes for you.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to look at what's actually inside, from raw emotional abduction accounts to cold, hard files on psychic spies in the U.S. Army. And maybe the craziest part, how they're now using AI to find patterns in all this impossible data.
So let's start at the beginning. How does a major university like Rice end up as the headquarters for the unexplainable? You mentioned Professor Kripal.
Kripal is the academic anchor, for sure. He's a historian of religions, and he'd been building these relationships for years with Amanda Falk, who's the head of special collections. But the real spark, the catalyst, that was Jacques Vallée.
Oh, Jacques Vallée. He's a legend in this field. He was the basis for the French scientist in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, wasn't he?
He was. But in real life, he's a computer scientist and astronomer. Very rigorous. And around 2014, he came to Kripal with a big problem. He's sitting on a lifetime of research files on 500 anomalous events he personally investigated, and he was getting worried.
Worried about what? The men in black showing up?
Nothing so dramatic. He was worried about loss and commercialization. He saw his colleagues getting older, and their life's work, decades of data, was just ending up in dumpsters.
Or worse.
Or worse, yeah. Auctioned off to some private collector who'd lock it away forever, or sold to a TV producer to make some sensationalized show.
That's a legitimate fear. You spend 50 years doing serious work, and your legacy becomes a B-movie prop.
He wanted preservation. He wanted it to be safe. So after 4 years, they finalized the donation in 2018. The Vallée collection is really the bedrock of the whole archive.
And how big is that one?
It's 38 linear feet of documents.
Let's put that in perspective. Linear feet. That's like a shelf of paper roughly the length of a school bus.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
And it's full of field notes, sketches, even old computer punch cards. It's the raw data.
Yeah?
But here's the detail that really got me.
Okay.
While most of it's public, some files in his collection and in another researcher's, R. Leo Sprinkle, are under embargo.
Embargo. So they're there at Rice, but you can't look at them.
Exactly. Restricted by the donors because of their sensitive nature. Some are locked down until 2028, some all the way to 2031.
Wow. Okay, my mind immediately goes to what could be so sensitive. I mean, Witness names, sure. But with valet, you have to wonder if it's something he thinks we just aren't ready for yet.
It definitely brings up that forbidden knowledge angle. But Kripal and his team, they're really trying to move away from that kind of sensationalism. Their goal is to undo the damage of the Condon Committee.
I see that name pop up a lot in the source material. For anyone who doesn't know their 1960s Air Force history, why is that report the big villain here?
The Condon Report was this big study the Air Force commissioned. And its conclusion was basically, nothing to see here, folks. Nothing of scientific value. Stop looking.
And that just killed the field for decades.
It created what people call the laughter curtain. It made it career suicide for any respectable academic to touch UFOs. So Rice is trying to tear that curtain down.
They're saying, we don't care if it's weird. If it happened to a person, it's data.
And they're doubling down. Last year, Kripal mentioned they're even calling it the Center for the Impossible now. They're pulling in anthropology, art, physics, even genetics. They want to throw the whole university at this.
So let's get into that data. Because 1 million documents sounds so dry, but a huge part of this archive is just deeply personal. Let's talk about the Whitley Strieber collection.
Yes, this is, without a doubt, the emotional heart of the entire archive. Whitley Strieber wrote the book Communion in 1987. It was his own nonfiction account of his abduction experiences.
That book was a cultural bomb. I still remember that cover with the gray alien face. It terrified an entire generation.
It did. But the book was just the beginning. After it came out, Strieber became a kind of lightning rod, a confessional booth for the whole world. People who had been suffering in silence suddenly saw his book and felt they weren't alone.
And they started writing to him.
Hundreds of thousands of letters. And this wasn't fan mail. These were desperate letters, people writing things like, I've never told my wife this, or I thought I was going insane until I read your book.
That's intense.
His wife, Anne, spent years curating them. And the archive now holds about 3,400 of the most significant ones.
That's 9 linear feet of trauma.
It really is. And this is where the academic value really becomes clear. A physicist might not care about a letter from a farmer in Iowa. A psychologist, a sociologist, a historian. These letters are absolute gold. It's a hidden history.
It reframes the whole abduction thing. It's not just about, was the spaceship real? It's about the fact that thousands of people felt something so profoundly that they had to write it all down.
Yes. It's a repository of what gets called rejected knowledge. And that theme carries right over to the John E. Mack collection.
John Mack is so important because of who he was. This wasn't some guy in a van. He was a Pulitzer Prize-winning professor at Harvard Medical School.
Which made his interest in alien abductions so controversial. He risked everything, his reputation, his tenure, to treat these experiencers as patients who needed help, not as people who were just delusional.
And his collection is the biggest one, isn't it?
By far. It's 450 linear feet. So, to use your bus analogy again, that's a line of boxes longer than a football field. But it came with a huge, unique challenge.
The privacy issue, doctor-patient confidentiality.
Exactly. These boxes are full of medical records, hypnosis session tapes, therapy notes. You can't just put that out for any student to browse.
So what did they do? Just black out all the names?
It was much more systematic. Corinne Austin, who was actually Mack's former assistant, became the project manager for the archives in 2024. She led this massive de-identification effort.
So they had to strip out all the identifying details.
Every name, every location, thousands and thousands of pages. It took years. But now, a researcher can study a hypnosis transcript from 1994 and analyze the structure of the experience, but they'll have no idea who the person was. It turns private trauma into public data.
Okay, so we have the emotional, personal side covered with Strieber and Mack. But the archive isn't just feelings, it's got the hard power files too. We have to talk about Project Stargate.
Yes, this is where the tone shifts from Close Encounters to a Cold War thriller. Project Stargate was a secret U.S. Army unit started in 1972. Its purpose was to research and use remote viewing.
And for anyone listening, remote viewing isn't just watching TV. What are we talking about here?
It's the alleged ability to perceive details about a distant, unseen target using only your mind. Psychic spying, basically. The Army had protocols, they had target coordinates, Soviet subs, nuclear sites, and they had viewers try to sketch or describe what was there.
And this wasn't just a weekend experiment.
Oh no, it ran until 1995. That's more than 20 years of government funding. The collection at Rice came from Edwin May, the program director for the last decade of the project.
So it's the official files?
Thousands of pages of declassified documents. It's just wild to think that while the CIA was using spy planes, they were also paying people to, close their eyes and look at Russia.
It shows the impossible wasn't just a fringe thing. It was seen as a potential weapon, an arms race of consciousness.
Absolutely. And you've got all these other collections, too, from people like Larry Bryant and Brenda Densler.
Yeah.
It's just this massive trove of information.
Which brings us to the big question. So what? They have 1 million documents. Are they just sitting there for future historians, or is something happening now?
They are definitely not collecting dust. In 2024, Rice launched a 2-year research initiative specifically to analyze this stuff. And this is where it gets really futuristic.
Let me guess.
AI. They are using artificial intelligence to decode the impossible.
Okay, that sounds like a movie pitch. AI hunts for aliens in the library. How does that even work practically?
Well, you can't feed a ghost into a computer, no.
Huh?
But you can feed stories into one. Think about it. Hundreds of thousands of letters, thousands of therapy transcripts. No single person can read all that and hold it in their head. You'd miss connections. You'd get tired.
But an AI doesn't get tired.
Right. They're aiming it at the Strieber and Mack collections. The AI can scan millions of words in an instant and look for semantic patterns a human would just never see.
What kind of patterns?
This gets into their core methodology. They call it a phenomenological method. This was laid out in a study in Global Policy late last year.
Phenomenological method. Okay, break that down for us.
It's actually a brilliant tool for this kind of topic. It means bracketing the question of reality. So instead of asking, did a real spaceship land on the lawn, which you can't answer from a letter, you ask, how did this experience present itself to the person?
So they're not trying to prove it happened. They're trying to map the story itself.
They're treating the narrative as the data. And the AI is perfect for this. It could look at a letter from 1975 and a hypnosis tape from 1992 and see that both people describe, say, a specific smell or a specific sequence of emotions, even if they use totally different words.
It's finding the common DNA in the impossible stories.
That's a great way to put it. It lets them map the structure of the impossible. And if you find a pattern that repeats across thousands of unconnected people, that tells you something profound, either about human consciousness or maybe about the phenomenon itself.
And it seems like the public is finally ready for this kind of serious look. The numbers for their conferences are really high.
The interest is exploding. Their conference panel videos have like 300,000 views. Their 2025 conference, the UFO and the Impossible, had 300 people show up in person.
And it's not just the usual suspects, right? Mainstream media is coming to them.
That's the big shift. In 2025, they had ABC News visit. Even The Sun, the British tabloid, sent a reporter who wrote this surprisingly deep piece about it. The conversation is moving out of the fringe.
It really feels like a turning point. For so long, this was all rejected knowledge. You were nuts if you talked about it. Now a top university is using AI to study it.
And that's the key takeaway. The Archives of the Impossible isn't trying to make you a believer. It's a library, not a church. Its argument is just that the human experience of the impossible is a fact. People have these experiences, and that makes it worth studying.
So keep an open mind, but keep it grounded in data. Don't believe everything, but don't dismiss everything either.
In our age of information overload, that's such a critical skill. To look at things that don't fit your worldview with curiosity instead of just immediate dismissal. That's the lesson here.
We've covered a ton of ground. From the vaults at Rice to psychic spies and AI detectives. But before we wrap up, there's one thought that's been nagging me.
What's that?
Okay, so we've established the AI is scanning millions of documents, right? Looking for patterns humans missed.
Right. Connections across decades of data.
But we also mentioned that some of the most important material from Jacques Vallée is locked away, under embargo until 2031 because it's too sensitive.
I think I see where you're going with this.
If the AI is successful, if it starts to decode the deep structure of these impossible events using all the public data, what happens if it finds the answer that's currently locked away in that embargoed box?
It is a chilling thought that we're building a machine that might find the secret before we're supposed to know it.
And if it does, there's no embargo on an algorithm. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious.